Welcome into another edition of The Session with Londa and David. My name's David Austin, and sitting across from me, as always, a beautiful lady in a striped thing. It's a smock, it's a tunic. I don't know what it is.
It's a duster, I think. I don't know.
I think it's beautiful. I think you look great, and I'm going to stop going on and on and on about how you look.
On air, anyway. Please don't ever stop in real life. Please.
There you go. So, this is The Session with Londa and David, and this program is all about helping small businesses be more productive.
Yeah, growth. That's what we're all about.
That's exactly right. At Sherwood Austin
Growth
Consultants. Hey!
Bada bing!
So that's what we do, in addition to me being a mortgage lender and you being a licensed real estate agent, both in the states of Washington, by the way. Let's not pretend we're licensed other places, because we are not. We are not. The consulting firm is based in Florida. Our mortgage and real estate business is based in Washington.
And we have other investments around.
That's exactly right. And no matter where you are, we hope to add value to your day and your business when you tune in to The Session with Londa and David. And Londa Sherwood Austin, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I went to the dermatologist this morning.
That's exciting. Tell me more.
It was exciting. They burned some things. They froze some things.
Exciting.
They cut some things off. They sent things off for pathology. It was exciting. Actually, it was a great experience as far as customer service goes. And, we did a podcast a while back about customer service in the healthcare industry, right?
Correct.
And I went to Watson Clinic. In Lakeland, Florida this morning.
Imagine, if you will, the Watson Clinic in Lakeland, Florida. Go ahead. Their
dermatology department. And they actually did a really good job. The people that I saw, Kate, who was kind of my intake nurse, I guess.
Yes.
I'm not sure. And then Anna Shaw was the person that I saw, the doctor person. But she's she's a nurse practitioner, I think.
A skin nurse practitioner.
Yeah. And so they were fantastic. And I was, I get anxious.
Yes.
As we all know. Yes, Londa, we know. And so I was, anxious. I didn't know what to expect. And when they said a full body scan, I thought they were going to put me in a machine. No, she just looks you over.
It's like when I give you a full body scan.
Well, and I said, I didn't really realize what to expect. I don't think I'm wearing the right outfit, as it were, for this. And she's like, don't worry about it. So she said, you're not the first one. You're not even the first one today that doesn't have underwear on. No big deal.
Well, you're wearing a bodysuit, and
so you don't also
that covers your business.
But you got to take it off.
I don't know why we're talking about.
We're moving on to it was great customer service, and I haven't seen really good customer service in the medical field in a very, very long time. And they did it today at Watson Clinic. Anna and Kate, they put me right at ease. She started asking me questions about myself and got me talking about myself, which is typically a sales technique, right? That's building rapport. I shouldn't say sales technique. It's building rapport technique. And she did that, and it was great. And I talked a lot because I was anxious, and so I was like, kind of like I am now, because I'm still a little bit manic. So this should be a good show.
That's good stuff right there.
I'm ready, though. I'm fired up. I'm excited. I'm excited that we're going into a new season. Autumn is almost upon us, and we've got some kids coming to visit soon. I did also talk to one of my best girlfriends this morning, and that always puts me in a really good mood. That's Natalie.
Great. Yep.
So my sister from another mister. So I'm having a great day. I got to do some demo yesterday at our house.
Yep.
So I'm excited. I'm pumped. I'm
doing some demo.
Yeah. I'm hoping.
Sanding.
Yeah.
What kind of sander is it? It's an
orbital sander.
Orbital sander.
I'm hoping the things that I'm working on right now will help me to kind of come out of the funk that I've been in.
Well, it's great that you say that. And not that you've had funk, but
I don't have funk. I've been in a funk.
Yes. And you know what? We've talked several times about COVID and the news coverage of COVID.
Yeah.
And, in Washington, it's still pretty polarizing, the discussion of COVID there.
I think everywhere. And if by Washington you meant Washington, D.C.
No, I mean Washington State.
Oh, I think everywhere it's very polarizing.
Well, there
It's a hot button
are
item.
some places where everybody's lockstep, like Portland. Everybody's in the same deal there.
I see what you're saying.
Seattle. Everybody's in the same deal there, but it's still a political and
I have clients that are currently trying to move out of Seattle because they're not in step.
Right. That's exactly right. They're getting out though. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's still a struggle between politics, which makes zero sense, by the way, and healthcare and medicine.
Right.
The fact that there's a political conversation going on about freedom of choice, to me, takes the eye off the ball. And, you can see in all of the news coverage that as a former news director,
yeah, I know.
It's fun for me to see.
Yeah, you get into that. You're really good at it, though.
When I watch national news coverage of what could be a very important story, like
this morning,
the FDA says,
or whenever that was,
a couple members of the FDA say, the science just doesn't provide enough information about us recommending boosters, right? That's a major news story. And to throw it in with piled on information is kind of a ramshod news style that doesn't make sense to me. Here's what I mean. They talked about the number of kids being sick being greater. That's a different story. It's a story. It's not that story.
Right.
The FDA, a couple members of the FDA saying, you know what, we don't have enough science here for booster shots. That is a lead story to me. That is a story. The talk about whether or not the mu variant or the Delta variant are more transmissible, again, separate story. Different story about the same overall topic, right? It's like having one story about politics and throwing every other thing about that general idea into one report. It's just, I think, shoddy reporting. And it's interesting because it's causing a malaise among people, and they're kind of in a funk. And you brought to my attention an article the other day.
Yeah. Adam Grant wrote a piece he writes for the New York Times. And he wrote a piece on languishing.
Right.
And my friend Natalie sent it to me. And I've sent it to, I can't even tell you how many people.
Well, let's talk about what languishing really means in this text, in this context.
So the article talks about throughout the pandemic, there's a general feeling of blah.
Yeah,
that
general
has happened,
malaise. Yes.
That has happened to people. And he actually says feeling of blah in the article, and I think that's a great descriptor.
Yeah.
It's not depression. It's just kind of a meh.
Yeah, it's not being manic like your mood was this morning, having a great medical experience, right?
Yeah.
And you've got the endorphin rush, and so you're all over the place.
Right.
It's not manic. It's not depression where it's all sad all the time.
Right. It's just a general malaise. It's a languishing. We're exhausted. And I think we're exhausted and I think you've been able to hear it in our podcast. I'm exhausted with the way people do customer service.
Right.
The languishing is such a good term for it because there's just this general, I don't know if it's just not really caring. It's just
people feel weird.
Void.
Yeah.
It's
and
like
there's
this weird void. And it's people are uninspired. and they're uninspiring. And we saw it. We recently went, we had our anniversary, and I said, I want to go shopping for the day because I thought that would be so fun.
Yes.
And because I love clothes and shoes and, all the stuff.
And seeing the people and all the stuff.
Yeah. And going to and eating out and the whole thing. Sure. I love it. I know you hate it, and you indulged me and took me shopping all day long.
Well, it was our anniversary. Yeah.
And it was great. And we came away with 2 items.
That's right.
Three.
That's right.
And they were boring, kind of. You know what I mean? They're like, we got you a pair of slides because you needed them.
Uh-huh. Yep.
I got some underwear on clearance because it was there. Well, they're hanky-pankies. And if you know anything about hanky-pankies.
I only know about hanky-panky. I don't know about the plural.
They fit great. They're super comfortable. They're great underwear. But anyway, and then I said, hey, I really have been wanting a 2-tone watch. I haven't had one in probably 30 years.
Right.
And we found this, and it's so cute. I love it so much. And you got that for me.
And it was at Invictus.
Yeah.
Invictus, which to me just sounds like a watch store.
But here's the thing.
And who knew it was?
We spent like 5 hours.
Right.
Going to all the places.
Yes.
All the places, including the International Plaza in Tampa Bay.
And the Apple store there makes me want to set something on fire. And I don't mean that literally, but oh my God.
I know.
You see a guy come walking up who clearly has money. Who says to the guy at the door, hey, I'm an Apple guy. We have an Apple family. All of our devices are Apple, except my main Envoy Mortgage work computer. Everything else, all of our studio, all of our phones, everything is Apple-based. And I say to the guy, we're an Apple family, and I want to check out new iPads because my iPad's on the fritz. And the guy says to me, yeah, we're only doing appointments. It's too crowded here. Meanwhile, it's not too crowded, but they have standards.
Capacity.
We just reached capacity.
Right.
And while he's teaching me about how their capacity works, 3 kids walk in, a girl gives them masks, and they go through the store. So while I'm being hassled and just want to look at iPads and have money and am there to buy stuff,
which is tiring.
I can't believe how they treated us at that thing. And then we walked by 45 minutes later, and the guy's coming back from his lunch break and sees us and looks at me like I'm supposed to know who he is, when in reality, I had blocked him out of my memory forever. You had to point out who he was and why he was looking at me so weird. And I'm not going to the Apple store ever again.
I think this is... part of what's going on is he's so tired of dealing with all this that he's now not giving good customer service. I wonder if 2 years ago that guy was any better. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
2 years ago, was he more on the ball? And is he just also languishing? One point, though, that I wanted to make is because we were shopping for 5 hours or whatever it was, I did get to see all of the new fall release, right? All the new fall clothing and shoes and accessories and everything are out. Mm-hmm. It's just like the spring release was. Boring, ugly, and uninspired.
That's what you said over and over again, uninspired. And I thought that was so interesting. And I felt like I was in France during Fashion Week, because you know what you're talking about when you look at that stuff.
Well, listen, I'm not high fashion, but I did, in the past, one of the jobs I had was dressing people for a living. I wardrobed people.
Yes.
And I like what I like, and I wear what the reason I'm saying this, I don't want people to reach out to me or to, I don't want hate mail like, oh, you think you know what you're talking about. No, I just know what I like. Right. And I do what I like. Okay. And I try to help other people figure out what they like and then do what they like.
I got you.
Okay. But I do kind of keep my eye on the fashion world, and I do love it. And the Met Gala happened recently, and very exciting for me usually, because I love looking at all that. And now that we have TikTok, it's all over TikTok. I was so excited. But again, nothing that wasn't expected. Right. I expected Billie Eilish to be like 40s, 50s glam. I expected J-Lo to do something very typical of what she does. I expected Billy Porter to be off the charts.
The fairy godmother.
Crazy. You know what I mean? Nothing was unexpected.
I gotcha.
And I think that our creativity is
stunted by
jeopardy.
Sweatpants and T-shirts because that's how people are dressing at home.
So I'm wondering if maybe we're seeing the great divide of the pandemic has, for some people, inspired massive creativity.
Right.
And for other people, it has just killed every bit of creativity they have. And I think that's one reason why I've been very for a while, and I think I'm so I feel so alive today.
Right.
But I think part of it is because I spent yesterday remodeling for several hours.
Yes.
And then I had a good talk with my friend, and then I had a good experience. And so it's like all these kind of external things are kind of giving me a little boost right now.
Sure.
And maybe it'll pull me out of my funk. I don't know. But it's just the people I talk to, the clients I talk with, it seems to be a general struggle. We've shared it with several of the kids, and they span a couple of different generations.
Right.
And I've shared it, the idea of languishing in this article, shared it with some of people in our age group as well. It's hitting home in every age group.
So what I can tell you is,
I even mentioned it to my doctor this morning, and she was like, yes, that's exactly what's going on.
Well, the languishing is a really interesting thing, right? And you've heard people say, I'm kind of in a funk. Well, that's what it is. When you're in a funk, you're not clinically depressed. You're not thinking about suicide. You're not necessarily taking to bed, as they say.
Right.
We've all seen people who are depressed who don't want to get out of bed and they can't really focus. And that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is a feeling of,
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot more in my friends, in my family, in my life over the last year and a half, because nobody really knows how this thing's going to play out, right? With COVID, nobody really knows.
Just when it was getting better, now it's getting worse. And
Right.
it's kind of, it's kind of freaky, right? And
Yes.
and is this why we're seeing the great, what's the word?
Resignation.
The great resignation. Is this part of it? People are looking for something to give them life.
Yes. Yes. And people are tired of working for employers that they feel, and it may be part of this lethargy business, that they feel like they haven't been treated well. Well, I got news for you. Sitting at home with a temporary layoff, getting an extra $600 from the federal government on top of unemployment. So now you're making more than you were when you were just a regular minimum wage employee working 40 hours a week. It creates a sense of entitlement. I would assume that, well, now I'm not going to go back to Burger King and let that guy Sean push me around, because screw Sean, I can sit at home and make an extra $600. So you know what? Everybody's looking for employees now in that vein. And we're seeing places like Chipotle pay $15 an hour, even though the federal minimum wage hasn't gotten there. They're like, screw it, we're doing it because we need workers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Almost everywhere we go, there's help wanted signs,
Yes.
In one form or another.
And I really believe people who sat at home and made more money than when they were working now are certain they deserve more. Does that make sense?
And that's kind of an opposing view to what we're talking about, though. Are they entitled, or are they uninspired? Are they languishing?
Well, they are uninspired, and they can be because they're making more money than when they were working,
and
so they have a sense of entitlement now.
I think I fight against that idea.
Okay, tell me more about that.
I think I fight against that idea. I don't think there's a whole population of people that have decided, screw it, I'm staying at home unemployed.
No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, I'm not going back to Burger King to make $600 a month less full-time working for that jerk Sean. So I'm going to go get a job somewhere else.
I see.
And that's the great resignation.
Right.
It's not I'm going to stay home forever, because
okay, good.
it's I deserve better than the way I was treated. And I know it because I made more money when I wasn't working for that jerk.
And they do. And that's the thing. Oh, this is maybe an open door into something else that we were talking about. I woke up thinking about overcoming objections in sales.
Right.
Because I'm a weirdo.
No, because that's what you do.
It is what I do. Just like how you can't watch the news without finding all the,
I was outraged watching 16 different stories about COVID crammed into one 90-second package this morning. I mean, I wanted to set the TV on fire. If you're going to talk about the FDA, let's talk about that, because that's a story. If you're going to talk about kids getting sick, let's talk about that. That's a story. If you're going to talk about school and safety precautions at school, let's talk about that. It's a story. Let's not shove all of them into one 90-second piece so nobody understands what's important here. That's all. That's my rant, and I apologize.
Would you like to hold my hand as you come down off your
soapbox?
I
would, yes, thank you.
There we go. So I woke up thinking about overcoming objections.
Yes.
And let me walk you through my thought train this morning. Overcoming objections. It's so easy. It's so easy to overcome objections. In fact, you can overcome them in the presentation, the way that you present the information on the front end, because of the psychology of sales. Mm-hmm. And if you know it, and especially if you're good at it, and you have a natural bent toward it, which I always have, you can talk almost anyone into almost anything. And you'll give the presentation and not have objections because of how you presented it. Then I went on to think, but even my own sales process has changed over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. From what I've always done to a different thing. Mm-hmm. What's different about it? And I started thinking about it, much more empathy-based.
Yes.
Much more focused on authenticity.
And needs-based sales.
It's always been needs-based. I've always done the needs, interview, if you will. But empathy is different. Just knowing your needs and matching my solution to your need is one thing. Caring about it and that being the central focus of the driving force of my curiosity and really finding out if I can meet your need or if you'd be better off with someone else or some other product. It's bringing you to the solution whether it's me or not.
And that is not necessarily empathy, but that is an evolution and growing up. That is what you've just described is a change in you, not a change in the process. More important for you to solve their problem, whether or not you make money. Mm-hmm. That's what's different. The thing that's different is your needs. Your needs are different.
I won't argue that. My needs in the last 2 or 3 years have been very different than they've ever been before.
Yes.
Because of my whole shift of life.
That's exactly right.
However, I think I'm seeing it in other people I think I'm seeing it in consumers as well. Mm-hmm.
We just got some extra light.
Yes. For those of you watching the video, welcome to our office. So I think I'm seeing it in other consumers as well. Mm-hmm. And, Gary Vaynerchuk has been talking about empathy for a long time.
Yes.
In sales, in the business world. But it's just this, I had just this revelation of, do we really need to overcome the objections or do we really need to get better at that empathy piece? And that is what I'm going to call it, because for me, that is what it is. Mm-hmm. And not be so, listen, I can close a deal. I can close, like I said, I can close almost anyone on almost anything.
Right.
Because I know the psychology of sales and the process, and I know how the brain works, and if you do this, da-da-da-da-da.
Sure.
I suspect, though, our brains are being a little bit rewired.
Okay.
Because of maybe the pandemic, because of, I don't know, maybe just the evolution of life and the human race and, whatever. So I don't know if anyone else is talking about this in the sales world. I'm going to explore that later because I'm really curious. Like, are we going to see a shift? I suspect we will see a shift in the way that we do sales and customer service and caring. And it's related to how I'm not going back to work for that Sean. Was it Sean at Burger King? I don't know why it was Sean at Burger King.
It was funny. I don't know a Sean at Burger King,
I'm
but I
not
thought it'd
going
be
back
funny.
to work for Sean at Burger King because
he's a jerk.
Because he's a jerk, or I wasn't treated well, or they're looking to be seen and heard as humans, people are, and that is a need for empathy. That's exactly what it is.
Well, and you know what? People who didn't have to go to work for a couple months now can have their terms met. I need to be looked at. I need to be heard. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And
you can't say that in an interview. Don't say that in an interview.
Oh, no. But
hello.
But that is what's happening.
I need to be looked at.
I need to be seen and heard. You better see me and hear me if you want me to come work there. And that son of a bitch Sean is not getting me back.
But there is a place for that. I know of a company in Washington State that is talking more about this because I know somebody there and we've talked about it. And within their company, they're talking more and more about mental health.
Yes.
And how do we make sure everyone feels okay? And I know there's a section or part of society who thinks we don't need to be thinking about anybody's feelings and, all that. I disagree wholeheartedly because...
Well, those people are going to die soon. And what I mean by that is they're old and out of touch. So they are going to die. That's true. People that are in that mindset generally are in their 70s and 80s and have never had to get along with people. Right. And their grandchildren say things to them like, Grandpa, I think you're going to need to have a better vision of what's happening here.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and they all need therapy and they don't realize it.
And that generation not only needs it and doesn't realize it, but it's so far-fetched. They made shows like The Sopranos and the movie Analyze This because those people just don't get it.
Right.
So shows like that became wildly popular. You know what I'm saying?
Which, as a side note, I had never seen The Sopranos, and so we're currently watching it, which might explain our earlier comment in the show when we turned into
hey,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. Such a great show.
It is a great show, but again, that generation thinks it's so far-fetched that you would get any kind of mental health help.
Right.
That they literally made shows about the mafia going through it.
And today, on the opposite end of the spectrum, every time anybody comes to me with any kind of issue, I ask them if they're in therapy.
That's exactly right. It's a different time. It truly is a different time.
It's so helpful, though. It really is so helpful to look at it. And, I'm reading a book right now that it's called How... The Body Keeps the Score.
Right.
And it's all about how trauma affects not only your mental health, but your physical health as well.
Right.
And man, it is deep and it's a hard read because a lot of it's so triggering for me, but also it's a little textbooky. So it's like,
but that's the only only way you like to read. It's
true. I don't read for fun.
Right.
But oh my gosh, so good. And it's been so validating to me. Oh, I'm not crazy.
Right.
This really is a thing, So
I think it's interesting too when you read things like that and you talk to me about it, because my worldview is so different than yours.
Yeah.
Because while I moved around a lot as a kid, I didn't have a lot of trauma. And that test we took, what is that test we took?
I brought enough for both of us.
Well,
it's called the ACEs test, and I'm actually glad that you brought it up. ACEs is a series of questions, and then you have a score, and it's really a trauma test, essentially.
Yes.
And they say if you score this much, then, you have minimal trauma. If you score this much, you should probably see a therapist.
Right.
And to focus on that area. And if you have 6 or more, a score of 6 or more, then you should be in intensive therapy focusing on lots of different things.
That's right. And to me, the questions seem so outrageous.
For instance, something like, and I'm not saying it right, but similar to, did you live in a home where you felt safe around the adults in your home?
Right.
Something like that.
Well, and to me, yes. And the thought that someone I know and love may have said, that is so hard to...
Right. And for me, it was 100% no is the answer to
right.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I grew up in a home where I didn't feel safe.
Understanding. I'm glad we were able to take that test the way we did.
Yeah, it was crazy how it came. Don't worry too much if things don't look like they're working out in your day-to-day, because things that, there can be divine coincidence or whatever you want to call it, serendipity or whatever, because that's what happened in that. We were driving home from Tampa. I had to be in a workshop.
Right.
And I thought, well, just listen, I'll put it on speaker.
We'll pipe it through the car sound and we'll listen to it together.
And you ended up hearing it. And it was a trauma workshop that Matthias Barker, who is based in Spokane, who is a brilliant therapist and
interesting kid too.
Follow him on TikTok. Because, man, I'll tell you, I think he was the first therapist I started following on TikTok. Now I, follow a handful of them. But anyway, he did this trauma workshop, and so we ended up listening to it together. And in the middle of the workshop, he did this ACEs test where, and he was so caring in how he did it. Now is the time where we're going to do this. And if you don't want to do it, then you can opt out and I'll give a signal when we're ready to come back in.
Right.
And it was just so caring and so thoughtful. Well, because,
So out of all the questions that were asked, I think I could relate to one of them.
Well, your score ranges from 0 to 10.
Right. And I think I got a 1, maybe a 2.
No, you got a 1.
And so clearly...
Which was mind-boggling to me.
Right.
Because, and I don't mind sharing this, I'm a pretty open book. My score was an 8.
Right. So...
And then I cried.
The questions are about physical abuse, sexual abuse, all of the things that I just didn't ever have anywhere near my life at all.
I think you actually guffawed at 1 or 2 of the questions. Like, how can that even be a thing?
Oh, I think so. But here's the deal.
Which?
Seeing your answers helped me understand a lot more about you. Right. And the fact that we did it together out loud, I think was really healthy. I don't think healthcare people recommend doing it that way, but that's how we did it.
Which happened to be.
And I have a lot greater understanding of some of the things you do and say that are so foreign to me. I can kind of see in a different way now because we did that together.
Right.
And I think that's really cool.
And think, no wonder you're so damn happy all the time.
Yeah.
What's it like?
Well, I don't know.
What's that like?
That's like saying, what's it like to feel the way you feel? I don't know. It's just how I feel, right?
Yeah.
What's
it like to be so light and free and undamaged?
Generally happy all the time. It's awesome. Wow. But here's the thing. When something major happens, like a breakup or like that, I would think it's got to be way worse for a guy that has never experienced anything traumatic than for someone who has been through all the bad stuff.
Right.
A breakup,
same shit, different day.
You know what I mean, though? A breakup for someone who has been physically and sexually abused, it feels different.
Probably.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to...
Well, it's humanity, right? That's everything we're talking about.
Is humanity.
And this is important when you're a business person.
Mm-hmm.
The person across from you, I used to say this all the time when I was doing a lot of speaking gigs in the faith-based community. I'd say, listen, the person across from you, the person next to you, way more similar than different.
Yes.
Because humanity.
Right.
And so I think when you are in sales, because that's a lot of what we talk about, or you're giving customer service, that has to be at the forefront of your mind. You know,
yes.
This is a human, and who knows what their circumstances are, and who knows what, and maybe this is true even of salespeople that we talk about, and maybe we need to give them a little more grace as well, because who knows what they're going through. Just be kinder, I guess, is what I'm saying in general. But employers, you got to look at your employees and think about the languishing.
Right.
You got to think about the everything that's been going on in the world,
right?
And think about their mental health and their emotional health. And when we look at other people, no matter what the circumstance, we've got to think about that. And maybe it's time to kind of foster the feelings of kinship.
I think people. That is absolutely true. And, you know, when you go to church a lot, you hear a lot of songs that talk about that, and you rarely see it in action in any organization, right?
Especially a church.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. The songs,
I have some rage
the language,
and
you do,
trauma.
And that's okay. So the language of those songs and hymns and many religious texts are really happy words that mean a lot of good stuff, right? I saw a TikTok the other day about somebody who had been to some religious service. I think you shared it with me, and the thing was, I get it. So don't be a dick.
Yeah.
That's keep your hymns, keep your music. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah,
I can live like that.
Yeah, it was a TikTok I shared with you. He said, you know, he grew up he went to church or whatever, and as a kid, and he goes, maybe you were like me. After a few times, I figured it out. Oh, don't be a dick.
Right.
You can keep your hymns and your books and your weird ideas or whatever. Just don't be an asshole to people.
Here's the deal. I think that's the way life needs to be for every person, no matter what you do. Be a nice person. Just be nice.
That's why we talk a lot about kindness.
The Austin team is kind.
In our relationship.
Yes.
And it's a lot of you reminding me.
Well, I don't know that I'd go that far,
kind.
but it's much easier to smile and listen than to frown and point. You know what I mean? Much easier to smile and listen. So why not smile and listen? What could go wrong?
Yeah.
You know, what is the line from Roadhouse? Be nice until I tell you to not be nice.
Right.
Well, so just be nice.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Easy.
Yeah.
If you can do that in sales, you'll win. If you can do that in personal relationships, you'll win. If you can do it when you're in jail in San Quentin and then go to San Francisco, you can be Charles Manson. You could talk people into anything if you can smile. We say weird stuff on this show, but that really did happen.
And if somebody pulled just that little bit out, I don't know.
I'm watching this documentary series about Charles Manson's life, and it is fascinating.
Listen, this is what he does. For those of you listening, this is what he does, because I sleep more hours than he sleeps.
I sleep about 5 hours a night.
Right.
And so I get up at 5:30 in the morning, and I ran through the Nixon Watergate series on Epix, and now I'm 3 or 4 episodes deep into Charles Manson's life.
Right.
And it's crazy. He took Dale Carnegie classes when he was in prison in California, and the line,
oh, Lord,
nothing will fool him like a smile and sincerity. And he started a cult that way. Interesting stuff. So what I'm saying is, if you can be nice and kind, you're endearing to people. And
even Charles Manson, I see. Yeah, I see where you go.
And
I'm glad you connected those dots.
You have to. And you can use your powers for evil.
Yeah, I've said that.
Or you can use them for goodness.
Yeah.
Why not use them for goodness?
For sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh, it's so many similarities between Charles Manson and Richard Nixon.
I think you just watched those around the same time.
Yes, that's exactly right. But
this is
boy,
terrible.
the hubris. Use your powers for good. That's the moral of my story.
Yes.
If you're feeling a general sense of malaise and lethargy, start smiling. Just start smiling.
Well,
that might help.
And I'm glad you got to this, because in the last few minutes of the show, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, okay, so we've identified that we're feeling this way. We're languishing as a society. What do we do about it? And I think that some of what you can do is find the things that you've always loved and do more of that.
I like that.
Right?
Brunettes with blue eyes. That's for me.
Find things that you want to try that you've never tried before.
I like that.
But you've always wanted to try.
2 years ago, you said those words to me, and we got paddle boards. We rented paddle boards for the first time, and I've been doing it ever since, and I love it. Paddleboarding. Who knew?
We love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They said on the... This was a weird moment for me this morning at the doctor's office, because I haven't been to a new doctor since my cancer diagnosis and surgery and all that earlier this year.
Right.
So, you have to fill out your medical history.
Yes.
And I had to check that box. It was very weird for me.
Cancer survivor?
Yeah, cancer. Myself, family members,
It is scary.
It was such a weird moment for me.
Were we watching a show when they talked about that very thing, where somebody had to check cancer? Why does it seem like something
We talked about it a couple days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was just weird. And I apologize. I don't remember my point. I was going to go somewhere with that, and whoop, it's gone.
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh,
so
do something you love. Do the things. Okay, so some of the ways, I don't know if this will help anybody, but some of the ways that I'm coping with this or trying to pull myself out of the funk is, one, I'm taking care of myself.
Right.
So I'm doing all the doctor appointments. I'm going to do all the things. I got a mammogram this year. I did the colon scan.
Pooped in a box. We both pooped in a box. And you know what? I didn't have to. I just did it for fun.
Oh, that's not true. That's so gross. Okay. I just went to the dermatologist and had a full scan, so they've got a baseline. I mean, I'm doing all of those. I finally got my teeth fixed.
Yes.
It's been for years. And so I'm doing all of those things that I know I need to be doing. I just remembered what I was going to say. It was talking about things that I love. And they said, do you have any hobbies or activities that you do? And I wrote down racquetball and paddleboarding. And those are two things that we do together. And I thought that was fun.
I would write those same two things down.
And so like that, I'm trying to learn how to play racquetball, and
you're doing great.
Paddleboarding and getting on the water more. I'm getting into water more because it makes me happy. I love going.
I loved you diving in the pool last night. That was awesome.
The Gulf or the ocean or the I love doing that. And I love writing, but I've been avoiding it a little. So I'm not sure what's going on there.
That's something you're going to do. We've had this conversation about you publishing, and I said, I know for sure that's going to happen in the next year.
Yeah.
And it is. So we're going to sit you down and get you doing it.
Before I can get inspired for that. So even like starting on our bedroom yesterday and at the house.
With your orbital sander.
Yeah, ripping. Nothing is more inspiring to me than ripping some shit apart and redoing it.
Yes. That's pretty exciting. It's fun to watch you do it. I helped a little. And
you did.
And then
I love it.
And then you said, no. I need to get an orbital sander and score the walls, which is language I don't speak. And then you were going to talk to your buddy who's a contractor about the best ways to do it. And you did connect with our friend Sam Ramos, who is a contractor, and he did give you some good ideas. And you went to work, and it was really, really fun to see. And I don't think you've been on your feet working for 8 hours straight in a year. And you were awesome doing it.
And it was fun. Oh, and while I worked, I kind of listened to Lula Rich, which is the new documentary series about LuLaRoe, their rise and fall. And they talked a lot about multi-level marketing. And so, that's I've got a lot of history with that. And it was thrilling to me. I loved it. I love that they got sued and taken down.
Well, you've got a whole thing going on there with fighting the man.
Again.
Yeah.
Rage. And past trauma I haven't yet dealt with.
There you go. You've said it all and you've done it all. Past trauma you haven't dealt with. Listen, I think there are a lot of cures for what ail you. If you're feeling stuck in your job or in your business, I recommend taking a bird's eye view of it and remembering why you do what you do before you make any rash choices. And then just be kind to people. That may help. I don't know.
And if you have to, blow up your whole life. Go have fun.
Why not? Mortality motivation's a thing. You had cancer this year. You fought it. You're out of it. You had a ton of dental work necessary. You went through it. You took care of it. You did it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I've had no major life changes this year, and it's been great.
Yeah.
So there you have it, and there it is. My name's David Austin. This is Londa Sherwood Austin, and this has been The Session.